G'day guys, welcome back to SuperCoach with DR and welcome to the Round 12 stock market. Hope you're having a rip of a week so far. Now, I tell you what, we've got a big episode in store for us tonight and only, unfortunately, a very quick turnaround. We do have a Thursday night game and some team news has already been delivered and it is absolute carnage. A couple of blokes that we thought would be great cover for the next 2 weeks in Sam Hayes and Maurice Rioli Jr. have been omitted. This is not good news and it's thrown a real spanner in the works now, and some teams are going to be really struggling to get close to 18. So we'll talk about a couple of rookies that may be available this week, but it may be a little bit of a hope and a little bit of a prayer. I've got no idea if they're going to be named or not. We'll just have to wait and see. Obviously, a man that I'm talking about sits up the top of the list this week in Mitch Owens. We've also got a fallen premium, the definition of a fallen premium here in Zach Merritt. In your back line, I think Jack Sinclair is going to be a really great option. Then, unfortunately, we have a couple of blokes towards the bottom of the pile here. We've got Christian Petrarca, a break-even, very much in the red in the 180s after 2 extremely poor weeks. And then Baz, we don't even need to mention what this man did, the old Baz butt. So, yeah, a bit of a Muppet act. Very unfortunate for owners and unfortunate for people like myself who are actually looking to bring this bloke into their sides after his bye this week. So a lot to talk about in regards to these options. Thank you very much to everyone that left a comment as well in my round review video. I'm going to get to those as soon as I've done this. I asked people to recommend me an NBA side. You know, who should I go for? Don't really have a team at the moment, more follow players. So I know there was a heap of comments about that. Thank you very much. I'll do my best to make a good decision. The only other thing I'll quickly mention before we get into it is the fact that you should be looking at players highlighted in blue this week. If they're highlighted in blue, that means that they were buy players from the previous week in round 12 and they will be playing in the next 2. So hopefully they won't be missing another game for the rest of the season. They're the blokes that you really want to target. The blokes that are highlighted in green, they've got the buy this week. You don't want to be bringing in premiums that have the buy, particularly with the carnage that we're facing already. And if they're highlighted in red, that means that they've got the round 14 buy. So it may be really tempting to bring 2 or 3 of these guys in this week. It'll make things look a lot rosier, but forward planning, looking to next week, it could really hurt you. So it's all about getting the balance right during the bye rounds. And yeah, it's extremely difficult, especially when you've got a couple of blokes that you really were relying on. So look, I'll leave it there for now, guys. Hope you have an awesome week. Let's start off with the 500k plus defenders. In positive news this week, we do have a few blokes in blue. Remember, you are looking to hopefully select blue players this week. That means that they will be playing during the next 2 buys and provide some really nice cover. If you're selecting a bloke in red like your McDonald or your Crisp, keep in mind that they will be missing in round 14. But quickly on McDonald, my poor mate Brent brought him in last week as a real pot option, but he did have a quieter game. I just don't think the value is there anymore. And Crispy, he's just chugging along, just okay, getting to the ton each week. He should play every game. We know how durable he is, and just a really safe option. That's why I've got the safest houses option there. Dale in green, along with Dawson, 2 blokes that have had really consistent years and deserve a nice break. I really think they've earned it. And then we get to the blokes in blue. So we can see Sinclair up the top there. We've got Houston, Ridley, Hewitt, and Short. So if I was to rank these players, we'll start with number 5 down at the bottom. Look, it would probably have to be Ridley for me. Look, scores of 68, 102, 115, 74, 82, 83, back up to 115, miss round 8, 113, then miss round 10, and 98. So look, it's been in decent recent form with that 109, but who knows, will he go back to those stretches of 80s for 3-4 weeks in a row? I'm just not too sure. Only 4 out of 9 games he's hit the ton. That's a little bit of a concern. At number 4, and look, I may be a little bit biased here. I've been burnt by him before and could be completely wrong on this one, but I've got Dan Houston. He's turned up 5 out of his 11 games. He's got a nice ceiling. When he does turn up, 4 out of those 5 have been 120 plus. That does include a 144 and a 139. His floor is actually pretty good. His 2 lowest are an 83 and an 86, and all the rest have been 90 plus, but something that I just don't trust about him. Does have that nice DPP status, but he does share that with a number of other players here. At number 3, I've got to have Shorty. He's gone 8 out of 11 games where he's hit the ton, 136, 152 in there. And how's this about consistency? And he loves to pair these scores up. A couple of 109s, a couple of 110s, and a couple of 111s. How's that? These certainly come in pairs. So I'm certainly hoping as a current owner that he can pair up his 152 this week. The issue is we're still a little bit unsure about his role. I'd just like to see him get settled somewhere. And then at 1 and 2, well, at 2, I'll still put Jack Sinclair. Look, Sinclair has been absolutely phenomenal. This bloke, I'm wrapped with him. Apart from a pair of 80s, he's gone 100 plus every other week. His best 2 have been his last 2, so in terrific form. 64 touches in the last 2 weeks. 49 of those have been kicks. So he's just got an awesome kick to handball ratio. It's about 3 to 1. He uses it overly well. Kicks inside 50. Looks for those seagull type possessions. Takes some kick-ins. Just a fantastic role. The only concern I have moving forward, and I did mention this in my round review, is the fact that opposition teams may look to actually put a little bit of time into him, because the easy ball that he got the week before last, it was just ridiculous, and I was loving every minute of it. So, look, I was very close to having him at 1, but the bloke that I do have at 1, Georgie Hewitt, I already made 175k. His lowest score for the season is a 111. He's got such a low variation. Every score, apart from his highest in round 1, which is a 131, has been between 111 and 121. How's that? Every score. Yeah, I haven't seen that for a fair while. There's been some really consistent plays, but that variation, 111 to around to 120, is just phenomenal. So you basically know what you're going to get from George Hewitt each and every week. He may not have the ceiling of someone like a Sinclair, but that consistency for me is very, very hard to overlook. He just has not let us down, has not gone under 3 figures. So, yeah, again, I'd have Hewitt at 1, Sinclair at 2, Short at 3, Houston 4, and Ridley at 5. Sis, for the first time in a long time, actually went under the ton. We've been waiting for this, but he did have 10 clangers, still got to a 90 plus. I'm not concerned whatsoever with this pick. Do you bring him in this week if you're a non-owner and pay over 630k just before he's got the bye? I certainly wouldn't look to do that. Try to select a bloke in blue. It is tough, though, if you want to finish your defensive line and he's your number 1 target. Yeah, you're in a bit of a difficult position, but yeah, each to their own. If you want to bring him in, I still think that he'll score really well for the remainder of the season. Sam Dougherty, he is obviously in blue. That 3-round average of 98 is the lowest on this list, but he is actually going 110 on the season. Some people are a little bit worried about the fact he's lost some of those kick-ins, but remember, he's never really relied on them all season to actually score well. He has only gone under the ton 3 times. His lowest score was a 78. Obviously, the week that I brought him in, and that is still in his system, hence the high break-even. Along with Sinclair, has a really nice kick-to-handball ratio, and his lowest kick count in the last 6 weeks is 18. So certainly an option if you already own the likes of Sinclair, Hewitt and Short. Richie, bit up and down. That's been happening all season. No point paying up at this price, and he'll be missing next week. And Tommy Stewart, this was really, really unfortunate for owners. Look, first and foremost, you just wish the bloke well, because concussion is not a great thing. And purely from a SuperCoach point of view, and I want to stress purely from a SuperCoach point of view, for non-owners, this was a fair reprieve, because he's been absolutely smashing it this season, and he was on track for an absolute monster. He was dominating that first quarter before he got hit. He was on track for a really, really nice score. So, look, if it's ever going to happen, and it's never great to happen, I really, really want to obviously stress this, but he does have the bye this week, so it's not like you're missing out in a game he was going to miss anyway. Unfortunate for him, yeah, it's just through concussion. So as a non-owner, you can certainly wait on him and pick him up at a much cheaper price if you're prepared to wait 2 to 3 weeks. Onto the defenders, 250 to 500k, and to be honest, I'm not going to go into a whole heap of detail here. There's 2 blokes that many of us may be saying goodbye to this week in Paddy McCartan and Sam De Koning. Thank you very, very much, boys. The job that you have done for us this year has been outstanding. Some of us have had one in the backs, one in the forwards, Personally, I've had them both in the defensive line for the whole year, but they've just done wonders for me. Delivered when I've needed them to. Personally, I'm keeping on to Paddy McCartan for the rest of the season and trading in, and I've already done it, a defensive loop in my forward line, of defensive forward loop this is. And unfortunately, I did have to let Dougherty go, but he's been terrific. And if you want to keep on to him for the whole season instead of McCartan, I still think that's an okay option. But they'll obviously be missing this week along with Hingy, so I think that it's an ideal time to trade them out. If you can keep one of them, particularly McCartan or Dougherty, for cover for the rest of the year, I also advise that as well. But yeah, it may be a little bit of a luxury there. The blokes in blue, you've got Peatling, Hill, and Sard. I've got the wallet symbol there on Sard because I think that he is good value. His 3-round average is around 100. Well, it's right on the dot. But is he going to be one of those top 6 to 8, even 10 type defenders? Probably not for me. Maybe on the borderline of 8 to 10 if all things go well, but just doesn't fill me with great confidence. I'd much rather one of the blokes that we've already talked about. Hill, yeah, same thing. You'd much rather go Sinclair. Can't really afford to go Hill. But again, he does have that defensive forward option. Can link up with McCartan if you're going to keep him for the season. Probably not, though. And Peatling, look, I think the ship sailed. 308,200. Negative break-even of 46, so we'll be covering for the next two. It is handy, but it's such an awkward price now. I just don't think that you can go there. And then we've got three blokes in red. You've got Gus Brayshaw, break-even of 40. A little bit of value there, but a bit of a nothing type pick, particularly at that price. Dacos, oh, you wouldn't believe that I traded him out last week after advocating keep him. I did a bit of a panic trade. I think that's the best way to describe it. And maybe not that. Maybe tried to go a little bit too fancy or outside of the box, and it just didn't work out. He got 178 possessions, absolutely smashed it. His best score, yeah, just killed me trading him out. But I've also missed the defensive mid swing symbol on him there as well, so he obviously does have that. So yeah, unfortunate that I traded him out. If you're an owner, absolutely keep. He should actually go up in value. I traded him out because I thought he was going down in value. Played the break-even game again and lost out there. And then Luke Ryan, well, again, I've got the wallet symbol there, similar to Sard. You could pick one of these two blokes. If you're going to go for anyone, you'd probably go for Sard, wouldn't you, given the fact that Ryan's got the upcoming bye. But he's been in much better form, been a little bit down this season, got a massive ceiling. Pretty much the same things what we talked about last week, but 109 through a 3-round average, 57 for a break-even. There's certainly value there. If you feel like you're strong in round 14, then I suppose you can go for him as that real budget type option. If you've held on to Gibcus, you're obviously going to continue to hold. He'll be good cover for the next couple of weeks. The Lizard, been in really nice form. He'll be missing this week, unfortunately, with the bye, though, along with Seagull. Wouldn't be recommending him anyway. Willow, he'll be out with the bye. Lockie Whitfield, does he come back in? I'm not too sure. What role does he play? I'm not too sure. What will he score? I'm not too sure. I've got no idea what's going to happen with Whitfield, but yeah, I'll be really interested to keep a keen eye on him. And the two old blokes down the bottom, Pendles and Zorko, break-evens of 133, 134, 3-round averages of 70 and 75. Yeah, it'd be best to get out of Dodgeville. On to the defenders under 250k, and we have two blokes here in green that will be missing this week. Cleary could be on the bubble for a long time, not too sure there. Karmas really hit back last week, but they've obviously both got the bye. We can see Perez there, who's in red. Defensive mid, I think it could be an idea to even keep him in your midfield if you can and use him as a bit of a loop, a bit of a swing with those defensive premiums that we've got, like your Hewitts. There's a few of them that actually have that swing, so it could be handy, particularly if you run out of trades towards the end of the season. And then we've got two blokes in blue coming off the bye. You got Wanganeen Miller. I'd definitely hold on to him. If you have held on to him anyway, obviously you're going to keep him. And I'd tell you what, I was thinking of some sort of Bon Jovi reference, Hope and Aware, or I couldn't come up with anything clever. So we just need this bloke to play, don't we? If you own him, obviously you've got everything crossed. And if you don't own him, and he does play this week, I think we may be almost forced to jump on him because there is such a lack of options, and particularly with teams struggling to even field 18, if someone like this becomes available, even if it's only going to be for this week, ideal scenario for the next 2 weeks, then I think that we've just got to take him. But I've got no idea if he's going to be named. I'll be eagerly waiting the team sheets. If he is named, then he probably just comes straight in for me. Onto the midfielders, 500k plus, and I tell you what, we are blessed with a number of really nice options this week. Before we get into those guys, we'll talk about some of the blokes in green. Touk Miller, you can see the new symbol there. Shout out to AFL Doodles. Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter. He's going to come up with a few symbols and little icons for me. He's got the Touk there, or the Tuk. Yeah, absolutely love that. So thank you very much, mate. He was phenomenal. Chucked the captaincy on him. It was a milestone game. I was expecting big things against North Melbourne, and did he deliver with a 160 plus? Wow, it makes such a difference when you actually nail the captain. So absolutely wrapped with that bloke. Guthrie and Keys both missing action. They've got decent 3-round averages, low break-evens. Could look to jump on next week if you're looking to do that. And Rory Laird as well. I think he's getting very close to a must-have. He's the third highest averaging player in the comp now, 623,500. It's still a half decent price, I think, for Laird. Got a really nice fixture as well. I'm really missing out not having him, and pretty jealous of those that do. I can see one bloke there in red, which is Brayshaw. I am a Brayshaw owner. Look, played a really good game last week, but unfortunately just didn't use the ball well. Too many clangers for him to get a real monster type score, but I think it was around 113. I'll take that from him, but I want a little bit more. You're always a little bit greedy, aren't you? But yeah, just a little bit more from Brayshaw. And then we'll get into these options that we see in blue. Obviously the ideal options to bring in, given the fact they'll be covering for the next two. So the one that I'm going to eliminate pretty much straight away is Brad Crouch. The other four options are clear and above. Well, look, I could be wrong on it, but I just think that the other four are at a bit of a different level than Brad Crouch. So we've got Zerrett, Parrish, Kelly, and Walsh. Obviously, Zerrett comes at a much cheaper price. Parrish at 625, Kelly at 619, and Walsh at 629. So the other blokes are within basically a 10k price range of each other. And where do you go? I tell you what, it is a super tough decision. I think we'll start off with the bargain buy in Zach Merritt. So currently in only 1% of sides. That'll certainly jump by a fair margin after this week. Has a 115 average in 2020 and 2021, so we know what he can do. Has had premium scoring history for a fair while now. He's bottomed out after his injury-affected score. That was a 57 against the Swans, and given the fact that that's now dropping out of his system, it's probably the lowest that we'll see him most likely for the remainder of the year. Coming off a 130 against Port, he's absolutely cherry ripe for the picking and the definition of a fallen premium. He has had an interrupted year, but he should be rested now, and he'll really want to come out strong and finish the year in a positive way. He's only gone under three figures twice after the bye last year, so does finish off seasons pretty well. Look, worst case, he goes down back for a little while, but he can still score okay there. Wouldn't be great, but if that's worst case scenario, I think that that's okay. Now, do you go him over one of the other blokes that we've got available here in a Parrish, Kelly, or Walsh? I think that you do if you need to save a little bit of coin. If money's not really an issue, then I would be going with one of the other big three here. I'm in a situation where money is going to be a little bit of an issue for me, so I'm personally going to target Zerrett this week. Would I much rather a Parrish or a Walsh in my side? Yes, I would. But at the price that we're paying for him, I think that it's probably too good to pass up. We're going to his teammate Darcy Parrish. So I'll tell you what, he is a bad man. He can be a very bad man when he's in good form. So he had a good 10-game stretch last year. It was from round 6 to 16. So here are his scores. Goes a 162, 107, 115, 134, 152, 136, 166, 115, 121, and a 190. Now, I'll tell you what, if you look at those numbers, it almost blows your mind, doesn't it? That was a 10-game stretch. Unfortunately, did have some quiet rounds, 19 to 23, 49, 108, 96, 112. 74. So certainly dropped off towards the end of the season, and that may be something that you are concerned about if you're bringing him in now. But will history repeat? I'm not too sure. In the current form that he's in, yeah, I'm liking it. I think he's going to be a good selection. Now, he's only gone under 100 twice. That was in rounds 1 and 3. That was a 97 and a 99. Every other score has been 109 plus. Still has West Coast and North to come. He's in form. 2 of his top 4 scores have been in the last month. Has a toughish type draw in the next 5 though. Carlton, St Kilda, West Coast an easy one, Sydney, and then the Lions. So, look, I'm a fan of Darcy Parish. He's also averaged 41 disposals in the last 2. So in ripping form there, you can see that 3-round average is the 3rd highest here with 126. If you're an Essendon fan, if you like watching this bloke play, then I think that he could be the one to bring into your side. Walsh is obviously another what you can select. 7% ownership as we speak. That will certainly rise again. I think that may get close to, say, the 10% mark at least by the end of this round. Scores of 90, 124, 101, 128, 106, 129, 89, 149, 133, and a 123. So that 3-round average is absolutely phenomenal. 135, the second highest that you'll see here. Averages 33 disposals and a goal over those last 3 as well. So if you're looking to bring in someone that is in absolute ripping form, then Sam Walsh certainly could be your man. But I'll tell you what, no one trumps Josh Kelly when it comes to recent form. He's got the highest 3-round average here with 137 and does have North Melbourne this week. So who knows what this bad man could actually produce. His last 3, 131, 125 and a 156. He's averaged 7 tackles, a goal and 33 touches during that time as well. So absolutely red hot with his role. We know if he gets pushed down forward, then that ceiling diminishes by a fair margin. But he's been playing through the midfield. Does he continue to play there? We've heard that Cornelio is being mooted to continue with that role. That's what Spike said anyway. Well, Kelly, well, owners would be hoping so. I got a little bit burnt by him last season when I bought him in after the buy. So does he go well? Possibly, but I do have the caution symbol on there. You're always worried with his durability. But if you think that he can stay fit and play out the remainder of the season, then I think that he is a buy now. Covering for the next 2, really, really handy. So if you're a Kelly fan, you can certainly bring him in. It's a really tough decision. Where do you go? How do I rate them? Well, it's just overly tough. As I mentioned, if money's not an issue, you go either Parish, Walsh, or Jelly. You may even look at it like if you bring Walsh in, if you've already got, say, Cripps, Hewitt, and Dougherty, and I do actually have all those 3, then maybe you'd lean towards a Parish because, just say, if COVID runs through the club, Carlton have a bad stretch of form, I suppose you could say. These blokes could suffer in their scoring, and you wouldn't want too many guys from the same team or scoring pretty low. So maybe to even things out, you could go a Parish. Again, who do we have from GWS? Maybe Cogs. Some may be holding on, keeping on to a Whitfield. Bruce maybe. That's probably about it. So you could look at it that way, but in regards to buy structure, they've already had their buy. They're going to be perfect covered for the next 2. The decision's yours. If I had the money to select any player, I'd personally be going with, and this is changing last week, I'd go with Darcy Parish. Lachie Neale had a poor game last week, but he is an absolute must-have. The highest averaging player in the comp with 131 on the season now. It's actually 6 points higher than Oliver. You see him in red as well, currently at 675,800. I've also got the must-have symbol on there. Look, if they're the number 1 and 2 averaging players in the comp, and I think obviously you've just got to have them in your side. You see a couple of blokes here in green, McRae and Mills, both got the buy, not available this week. You've got 2 blokes in blue that will be able to cover the next 2. You've got Paddy Cripps, hasn't been in great form. You can see pretty lowly 92 for a 3-round average, which is a little bit disappointed there. Hopefully he bounces back. Maybe just needed a bit of a rest. Wines has been in really, really good form. You can see that 3-round average there, 123. But look, I wasn't a huge fan of him when he was close to 500k, so I'm certainly not going to advocate to bring him into your side when he's getting close to 600k. But at the same time, if you're looking for a pod that is on fire, feel free to bring him in. He will cover for the next two, obviously. Ollie, we've already talked about, and Track, well, what's happening? He was crooked the week before. Maybe he was still feeling the effects of that, but if you look at that price, 523k and his break even 186. If you're a non-owner and you're prepared to wait 2-3 weeks, then this bloke is going to be an absolute steal at under 500k. Yeah, who knows how low he could go if he doesn't find form. On to the midfielders, 250 to 500k, and to be honest, I don't think we look to invest in any of these players, and apart from maybe the couple of blokes in green, I don't think we look to sell either. Real definitely won't be a keeper. Played okay last week, but I think it's a perfect time to move him on. Haitley, you may be a little bit more loath to get rid of, given the fact that he's still in pretty good form. Still has a fair bit of money to make there. If you look at that 3-round average of 97 compared to that break-even of 28, yeah, a lot more money to make. But, yeah, do you get rid of him this week when he's got the bye? Completely up to you. A little bit of a role change. Yeah, I'm not too sure. It's up to you with him. And then we get to the blokes in red. We got side bottom there. Been in decent form for that 3-round average. Exactly the same as Berry. They're both sitting at 96. If you own them, well, if you own Berry, you've obviously had him from the start of the year. You look to keep him this week, then you flip the next. And then with side bottom, well, you probably wouldn't have owned him throughout the year, so you've probably brought him in within the last couple of weeks. You'd probably just look to hold then, I suppose, if that's the case. And then you got 4 blokes in blue. You got Hobbs there as a mid forward. If you've held on to him, you keep on to him. It's the same with all 4, isn't it? If you've held on to them, then yeah, you obviously keep them. Do you look to bring him in? Well, I've got the wallet symbol there, the empty wallet. Travis Boak, Tom Green. If you need someone at an ultra treat price, then I suppose you could go there. Almost identical prices there. Remember Green, he was the hottest player in the comp. Becoming a failed pick. Best score in the last month is a 102. All the others sub-tons. He's playing North this week though, so he's 100% a hold. And it's a bit the same with Boak, isn't it? A little bit of a role change for him as well. But to start off the season, he was absolutely on fire. But now, yeah, looking like a shell of his former self. On to the midfielders, under 250k. And I'll tell you what, we've got one bloke up the top here who's a bit of a hope and a prayer this week. Mitch Owens, 117,300, negative break-even of 22. Look, to be completely honest, I think most of us who are looking to bring Owens in, and obviously those that currently own him, are really looking for him just to cover for the next 2 weeks. During these tough buys, 13 and 14, if this bloke can get up, he will be by far the most popular traded in player this week, along with I think another premium who we obviously talked about before in Merritt. But look, with Owens, it's really tough to guess. I just don't know at this stage. We'll be eagerly awaiting team sheets. You know, there's a lot of players to come back into this side. You've got, who was a Butler, Hunter Clark, Billings has been playing in the reserves. I think there's a couple of other blokes knocking down the door as well. So, look, his spot is far from safe. But if he does play this week, we simply have to get him, I think. Many of us are going to be struggling to field 18. Hamilton, I've just got the train wreck there. He's just been a train wreck rookie selection, looking like the best pick after, what was it, the 3rd round or the 3rd game that he played. It was either Hamilton, Rioli or Carroll, but now he just hasn't seen any more action. Spike obviously isn't a great fan of him, but if he could get up this week, it'd be a slight miracle, but it'd be fantastic for owners. Butler, yeah, well, he's been okay, been serviceable. Well, this week, if you've got him, he'll definitely come into play, given the fact that we're really, really struggling. What do you expect? Well, anywhere between, say a 35 to a 50 type score, but that'd be okay, and obviously add to your odd film points. Maurice Rioli, now, damn, I didn't see this coming. I thought that his job security was really solid. You know, give the young man a little bit of a break during the bye and then come back fresh. Nah, he's been relegated to the reserves along with Castagna as well, which was a little bit of a surprise. So what do we do here now? I think we can hold. Look, if you really need to get another player in, and there's actually a player available, then you could do that. I wouldn't be going to someone like a Butler type. Remember, he's going to be missing next week anyway, Butler, so I wouldn't be making a move like that. But look, it's up to you what you do with Rioli. I'm probably most likely just holding for now. Clark and Stevens, they're both out this week. I'm most likely keeping Clark for the rest of the season. Stevens, load Tog. What do? He's coached by Chris Scott. And Jack Carroll, I'm basically counting as a dead rookie. Look, if he gets up this week, that would be absolutely fantastic. But I've said it for the last couple, we've been discussing the buys. I'm not really counting him as an on-field option because I doubt whether he gets in the side. Onto the rucks, and there is all of a sudden a little bit of interest and activity going on in this line. I think that Witts, Bruce, Hayes combo owners are looking in some trouble this week. It's super frustrating when you've got great planning and then it just all goes up in flames. You're expecting Bruce to be playing this week along with Sam Hayes, but at this stage, there's major question marks on whether or not Bruce is even going to be selected this week. I think it's a bit of a 50-50 proposition. Hayes, we already know, has been omitted. So all of a sudden, two players on field that you thought would be covering this round may actually be non-existent. So look, what do we actually do? Darcy Gawn owners, they'd be absolutely loving it. But remember, next week, they're not going to be so happy with life in the ruck line. There's probably, three really relevant ones, isn't there? You've got, obviously, Gawn, Darcy and Witts. You've also got a real pod in Nank. You know, his last month, he's gone 121, 108, 135, and a 134. He's playing Port, who have no recognised ruckman selected. Also plays Carlton next week. Couple of easy ones after that, then a couple of difficult matchups. But yeah, an ultra pod selection. Look, could you pay 556k for him when Gawn's 587? You know, Shrek Darcy, he's costing about 20k more. I couldn't do it myself, but look, he will be covering for the next two, unlike your Darcy, unlike your Gawn. So that could be an extra, 100 to 120, 130 points that he gets on both of those players. So it could work out for you, but yeah, an ultra pod move. Jared Witts obviously isn't playing this week, so we don't really need to talk about him. Cameron, well, if you own him, you just hold him because he's been on absolute fire. 117 through a 3-round average. He's been a terrific selection whenever you've traded him in. Dixon obviously got the bye with Strundicka, so really it's out of Gawn and Darcy, isn't it? You know, they're the two blokes you need to talk about. Well, Gawn, 198 points last week. That's his largest in a couple of years. Absolutely cracked the peanut in the ruck. That's right. Peanut Laddam's still screwing me over, even when I don't own him, even when he isn't in my side. But look, Maxi, he just dominated in every way. You know, kicked a small bag, marked everything that came his way. 28 touches, 30 hit-outs. Just a magnificent game from Big Max. But at the same time, he is a bit of a flat-track bully. You know, his three big ones, injured Lyset, Max Lynch, and obviously the Peanut. So there is still some question marks on him, but I think he's by far the safest ruckman along with Jared Witts. He is owned by over 50% of the competition. So, look, it does make it really, really hard for people like me who don't have him in my side when he almost goes a double ton. But on the other hand, Sean Darcy, I did decide to bring him in and actually pay up a little bit more for him last week. Original plans were just to go to Gawn, but I thought, do you know what? I want to get this man in. There was a couple of reasons, and I think I've already mentioned them. It was the fact that he was a real pod, only 4% at the time. He's up to 7% now, so there were 3% of coaches that sort of had the same thinking as me. But look, you lost 139 points in 1 week to Gawn, and you'd be maybe expecting that if you're a huge Gawn advocate over Darcy for the rest of the season, you know, over maybe a 10-week period. So the fact that that happened within the 1 week really, really hurts. But if you compare, you know, Gawn's stats to Darcy's, Darcy, 2 kicks, 8 handballs, 1 mark, 28 hit-outs, couple of frees against. It was bloody meek. You know, I'm hoping that Tabner's out. Oh, sorry, back in, not out. I'm hoping that Tabs is in this week and Meek goes out because that will mean good things for Darcy. He's next to, and this is also a major reason why I was looking to get him in, he plays Hawthorn and Carlton. Scored a 183 and a 193 last year against those two sides. So I think he's going to be the perfect VC option. And then he plays Port the week after that. And who knows what's going on with Port's rucks, given the fact that they have omitted Hayes this week. So, look, I'm still okay with the fact that I own Darcy. It's only 1 week, and he was coming off some really, really great form. You can see his 3-round average there, 111. Nothing fantastic whatsoever, but we're not talking disaster stuff. Last week, it was an absolute disaster for him. And look, moving forward, if for some reason they do decide to keep the faith with Meek and go with that 2-ruck setup, I think we're in pretty big trouble and may even come to the point where I need to jump ship and get back on Gorn. So, yeah, at this stage, I'm not overly concerned given the fact I think Tabner comes back in. But, yeah, it certainly wasn't a fantastic feeling going Darcy over Big Maxi last week. Onto the forwards, 500k plus, and welcome to Buy City. We can see only 2 active players this week in Goldie and Will Brodie. So look, with Goldie, I certainly wouldn't advocate for bringing this guy in. You may say to yourself, look, his ruck forward status is handy. He's certainly a pod, 3-round average of 103. Look, it's all okay, but I just don't see him really competing with the big boys, and he will obviously be missing next week as well. Will Brodie, I've still got the symbol, well, the 5 symbol on him there, but I've still got the fire on him. He's been absolutely fantastic, this bloke. 573,000 with a 3-round average of 125, if you don't mind. Yeah, and it's been an absolute premium for us. Now, how does Fife affect him? Look, I'm slightly less worried than what I have been throughout the season, I think, mainly due to Brodie's form. It's a formula that's worked for them this year, and I don't think that they'll want to tinker with it too much. Look, it is Nathan Fife we're talking about here. And even though Brodie's had a ripper of a season, he's certainly no Nat Fife. So I don't know what's going to happen moving forward there, but at this stage, I'm a really, really, really happy owner. And then you've got, obviously, all the dogs there. Look, we will talk about these guys next week. Really disappointed with Baz. I was looking to trade him in after his bye this week, but all of a sudden that plan is completely out the window, and I just don't know what I'm going to do now. We know that Bont's carrying an injury or 2. I've already got Dunkley, English. Treloar, I don't love his durability. I've got Parker. And then we look at Libba. You know, a high amount of CBAs. He could be the man to look at as an ultra pod, but I'd much rather prefer Bont or Smith, given the fact that Bont's injured, as I mentioned, and Smith won't be available. Yeah, they're not really realistic options, I don't think, at this stage. But who knows? If Bont has a week's rest, could come back fit and firing. Onto the forwards, 250 to 500k, and we just saw Buy City before. I think we now reach Budget City. So there are a lot of players here who I think have the potential to be, say, F8s to F12s to 15s on this list. I'd much rather wait for one of the dogs myself, or any one of the other players on the previous list, maybe apart from Goldie, than these guys, as I've just got more confidence in them. But there are, let's just say, 4 or 5 that may lay claims to those sort of spots by the end of the season. Well, we'll go through the guys in green. You got Jeffers there. Awesome form from him. 84 for a 3-rounder. Roses played one of the games of his life, I think, on the weekend. You know, impacted the scoreboard a couple of times. Some awesome assists. Just everything he touched turned to gold. I mentioned this in my round review. Great player. So, yeah, I was going to trade him out this week, but given the fact that he had an awesome game, his break-even is at 4. He's got more money to make. I might actually just keep on to him. I think it really depends on how desperate I am for on-field players, I think. McComb, he's definitely going for me this week, so you could go down to an Owens type if he's named. Personally, I'm going up to a Zerrett this week. I think that's the move to make, as I mentioned before, if you haven't got a heap of cash in the bank and you're looking for a midfield premium to round things out with. You got the guys in red, so Lipinski had a really great game on the weekend, but trust issues there. Dougherty, again, 94 for a 3-rounder has been a lot better than what he's been producing, say, 3 to 6 weeks ago. But trust issues there. He has the potential to really step up, but I can't see him really making a huge move. And Anderson, we had a bit of a role reversal. That's why I've got that symbol there. A lack of CBAs, and why was this? I've got no idea, but certainly not great signs if you jumped on him as a pod last week. Still got money to make those, so it depends how you wanted to use him as a bit of a short-term rapid cash cow and make your 70k, or else if you're looking for him to actually be a keeper. If it was the latter, then yeah, probably not a great move. And then you've got these blokes in blue. So Durden's obviously a rookie that we look to move on, possibly after the buys now, if you've held on to him. Curno's been playing really well. Such an underrated pick this season. Not many people have even given him a big rap, and he really does deserve it. But I think he was a bit of a pod type selection after a really, he was a really popular preseason pick, Gresham, I've got the symbol there with the wallet and the fire, though, because he's got a 110 3-round average, which is actually the best on this list. Butters, I think that probably him and Cogs are the two, and I've got the target symbol there with the wallet that I would be targeting if you need more of a budget option that is under your 460k. Cogs, I think, has a good role moving forward now. Spike's been on record saying that he thinks that they've found his spot now, and that's through the midfield. They think he can have an impact there, so that's really good signs for those that kept on to Cogs. I obviously didn't keep on to him. And Zachy Butters, well, look at that 3-round average, 109, so obviously a lot higher than Cogs there. We've seen the best and the worst from Cogs in the last 3, though, haven't we? But Butters, I've still got faith in Omanona, but I don't rate him as a top 6 at this stage, but still perfectly fine to round off your midfield with. So they're probably the 2 blokes that I'd be looking at. But if you're a Dougherty fan, if you really believe in Gresham, I suppose you could go there. Demioli, he's had a pretty poor month. Scores of 85, 70, 106 and a 64. Rosie, only 300 plus scores this season. 2 of those were in the last 2 weeks, but he also posted a 46 in round 10, so I really don't like that too much. Isaac obviously has the bye. I traded him out last week for English and actually lost points there, would you believe it or not? I wouldn't trust Taranto. Don't even know if he's back yet. And the 2 Tigers boys, well, again, it's the same thing. Major trust issues, not looking like top 6 to 8 forwards in any way, high break even. Although Dusty does have the highest 3-round average on this list with a 92, but overall, when I look at these players, none of them scream pick me. And we'll finish off with the forwards under 250k. Unfortunately, not a lot to see here. Motlop up the top, 135,500, 3-round average of 37 with a break even of 4. Look, he's looking to rise about 15k, and if he plays, if you want the extra, what will it be, 30 to 45 points on field, I suppose you could go there, but it's not really something I'd like to do. Curtis, just cross your fingers he plays. Same as Windhager, but I can't see him keeping his spot. We've already talked about some of those blokes that need to come back into that side. I think he's probably the first one to go out. And C-Mac, I didn't even use his score last week, but this week with the carnage we're faced with, he could be a hero. Yeah, wishful thinking. So that's it from me for now, guys. All the best of luck with your trade-ins and your trade-outs this week. Let's just cross our fingers and pray to the SuperCoach gods that there's no more carnage on the team sheets this week. And hopefully they can bless us with a rookie or 2. I'm talking about Ware, Owens. That could be the difference for many teams between fielding 18 or even 16 this week. So all the best of luck. Hope that you go well, and I'll see you soon in the round review. Cheers, guys. Bye.